Klopfanstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Meeting Monday. Hey everyone, I'm Ron Klopfanstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. We want to welcome everyone on Facebook Live, everyone listening at 955theheat.com, and of course all our radio listeners right here on 95.5 FM The Heat. We've got a powerful and meaningful show for you here tonight. I'll be joined by Becky Nemo from Brett Strong. We're going to talk about her son, Brett Sutton, the serious illness he faces, and how Becky's using social media to rally love, prayer, support, and the community to give him some help. Segment 2, I'll talk with Colleen Campbell about grief, survival, resilience. Now, she's used Facebook to share and process the pain of losing her husband in a way that has touched and helped other people as well. And later in the show, Moe and Sarah Lalonde join me to talk about their new children's book, their years as science teachers, and the art and science of writing lessons that really connect with kids. But we begin tonight at Grace Church in Utica, where history, art, faith, and some of the most important women in Utica's cultural story came together in a truly remarkable way. Photojournalist and AI content producer Jim Hale and I were there, and we have this report. I'm Ron Klopfanstein at Grace Episcopal Church, where a set of rare and historic windows by celebrated artist Henry Holiday tell a sweeping story of creation, faith, and praise, and also reveal something about the women who helped shape this church and our area's culture. I'm with Reverend Williams, and the Henry Holiday windows behind us are especially significant. Why is that?
Well, because Henry Holiday is a London-born glass artist, and he has had 2 masterpieces in his lifetime, and this is one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so this particular one it tells the whole story of creation. It was, they were commissioned by the Williams sisters, Munson Williams, Proctor sisters. They commissioned them in the 1900s. They were installed shortly after the 1900s. They came from London on a ship and everything, and I have stories about them.
Wow.
So they came over from London, and they had them installed in the early 1900s. So when this was built, we actually have pictures where there's no windows in this at all. And so
really?
They put the pictures, and it tells the whole story of creation.
Yeah, for our radio listeners who aren't seeing this, like what do people see in these windows?
Well, I see a bunch of different things theologically than the average person would, but it tells the story of the land. There's Christ as our center. As you can see, there's an orb in his hand because he is the holder of the keeper of the world in which God had created, and it speaks to creation. There's the creation of water and animals and the elements that he created. So it goes through the whole 7 days of creation.
Yeah.
And it tells the whole creation. And below, you see the male and female counterpart saints.
Now, why is that significant that there's male and female counterpart saints depicted here?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think the sisters may have had a leaning towards some of this stuff because it really was the women that built this church.
Henry Holiday's work reaches beyond art. Historical accounts say his wife and daughter were suffragettes. That makes his work here feel more interesting because it's about more than faith and beauty. It's about women's visibility and influence. Rachel Munson Williams Proctor and Mariah Watson Williams Proctor grew up right here at what is now Fountain Elms. The women behind the windows at Grace Episcopal Church were deeply tied to this place. Helen Munson Williams raised her daughters, Rachel and Mariah, to appreciate not only beauty, art, and culture, but also to give back to the community.
Helen really deserves a lot of credit.
For what? I mean, why?
Well, she was incredibly well educated for a woman who grew up in the early 19th century. Mm-hmm. She attended Utica Female Academy, and she studied everything from the classics to geometry to physics. And really beyond that, she was a sharp businesswoman. So Helen, like I said, instilled that philanthropic feeling in Rachel and Mariah. So they got, for example, they always got an allowance. Okay. But part of that allowance, because Helen kept those records, always had to be given to charity.
Interesting.
So
Wow.
really from the time that they're
from
girls,
childhood.
right. And so they start to give back to the community. And you've been talking about Grace Church and how important Alfred Munson was in beginning Grace Church. And then Helen continued that, and then her daughters after.
Mariah. Here's Mariah.
And here's Mariah right here.
Yep. And Mariah's husband.
And Mariah's husband, Thomas Proctor, right?
One of the things that interests me so much about them and about the windows kind of brought up this idea to see the female representation in the windows. It made me wonder about the sisters themselves and thinking about the time period in which they were doing all this philanthropy and stuff. It was unusual, I would think, for women to have that much agency at the time to like spend the money like that and have such an influence on the culture. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So a lot of the money in the family did go through the women, because Helen inherited her father's estate, her parents' estate, and part of her brother Samuel, who predeceased her, and that went to Rachel and Mariah, who married the Proctor half-brothers. So they did, but they were also very typical of women of their time.
How so?
Well, so for example, when paintings that were owned by Helen and then inherited by her daughters were exhibited at the Art Association here in Utica, instead of saying that they were from Mariah or Rachel Williams Proctor's collection, they would say, Mr. Thomas Proctor.
Oh, the name of their husband.
So the name of the husband.
Yeah.
And for a long time, as you can even see on this label, it still says Portrait of Mrs. Thomas R. Proctor, because that's how she saw it. Right. I mean, they were very typical of women of their era. In that respect. So, but you're right, they did have a lot of agency, and they directed a lot of the resources. So much of what this community enjoys and appreciates was because of the women in this family, and that it is Helen Munson Williams who really got the ball rolling.
The fact that there are female counterparts in here, whether they were requested by the sisters or not, I'm not sure, but the fact that they're in there says poignantly to the role that the women wanted to see depicted in these art. You can't ignore that. When I went around, when I first got here, I was really amazed that they had all these female saints in here as well. And because usually it's just the male saints in churches. And so I think it's really nice to see the counterparts, because the women that they have depicted in here and of themselves, if we were to study them, had a significant impact.
At Grace Episcopal Church, these windows serve as a powerful blend of history, artistry, and faith, but they also are one more reminder of the women who helped shape this church and our area's culture. At Grace Episcopal Church in Utica, I'm Ron Klopfanstein for 95.5 FM, The Heat. I have that story online tonight at 9 p.m. You can find it on my YouTube channel, Facebook page, TikTok, Instagram, and other social media platforms. And of course, this entire episode will be online Wednesday at uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Joining me now in the studio is Becky Nemo. And Becky, we all know you from Facebook with the Brett Strong hashtag. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who is Brett? You can pull your microphone down right to your face, sir. There you go. You can pull it right in like this. Yeah.
There we go.
Who is Brett?
So first and foremost, Brett is a father, a husband, a brother, and a son.
Yeah.
Brett is Sutton Landscape. He has a landscaping business it's been tough the last year.
What happened to Brett?
Brett was diagnosed with HS, which is hidradenitis suppurativa. And now they're calling it a necrotizing fascia. So it's a flesh-eating, fast-moving bacterial infection. It got in his blood and it tunnels in his skin.
And it kills the flesh, whatever flesh it comes into contact with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So recently, Brett was all infected, because also
it kind of
on
takes
top
over
of
your
it
body,
being a necrotizing fascia, it's infection prone.
Yeah.
So the medicines that you take, they don't really help, because it's like your body's in a constant fight.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to kill the infection, and the disease is infection prone. So it's like always fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So he's unable to work at this point.
He's unable.
Completely.
Brett currently can't even stand, let alone work.
How are you dealing with all this? You seem to be holding up well. You baked some cupcakes you brought in, and you know.
I did, and that's what I do in my spare time.
Probably
my spare
keep your
time.
mind occupied, right?
Yes, I have to stay busy.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks when Brett was in hospital, I didn't work. I didn't do nothing. I cried. I cried and cried and cried because I didn't know how to fix it. Obviously, Brett's my son. I just want to fix things that's wrong, and I can't fix it. So I guess the best I can do is just be there and try to get other people, share a story. Prayers, they help so much.
You've done a great job of sharing his story on Facebook. What is the reaction been?
I get a lot of reaction. Actually, the reaction's been mostly positive. Some people are like, why are you sharing it here? Because, so wherever I shared the Sutton landscape, wherever I shared Sutton landscape, I also share Brett's story. So on like Camden pages, Westmoreland pages, New Hartford, and one person was like, well, why are you sharing it here? He doesn't live here. No, but he's done a lot of work for a lot of people, and I think they would want to know, you know, a lot of people reach out and are like, I need work done, I need painting done. Well, Sutton Landscape isn't available right now to paint, and
it's something that can happen to anybody, really. I mean, you know, he was in the hospital, you said, for other surgery, and it just got infected with this stuff. So it's like something that could really happen to people.
Yes, and people should be aware because and once you have it, it's so hard. It's hard to heal from. It's hard to get rid of. It's hard to deal with. It makes it hard on everybody.
Does Brett know that he has so much support from the community? Does he know about your approach with social media? And so it must be somewhat encouraging.
I'll tell him. And people have been sending cards, actually.
I was going to ask, how did that thing go with the cards? I
went there the other day and I said, do you even get mail? He's like, every day from people I don't even know. So,
poor Brett. Tell him he does not have to respond to every single card because he'll never want to get better.
He's thankful. It brings his spirits up a little bit.
That must be great.
And the reason I did that is because he was in Cooperstown, and it's like far for a lot of people to go visit him. So if they sent cards, he'd know that they're thinking about him and praying for him, you know, and prayers are a big thing. Especially right now, we all need them.
Sometimes it's all you can do. You know? And I think knowing that so many people are like behind him and wish him well, I think must be, how does that make you feel as his mom?
It makes me feel,
I mean, you feel awful because what's going on, but it must be somewhat
more emotional
than
anything. I mean, to see all these people come together and support my son. Like, so Brett was known in high school as Brett the Hitman Sutton. He was a badass football player. Never missed a tackle, got them all. So, I mean, he's always been the popular guy. But I mean, when times are really tough, our village has shown up.
You need your people.
Yes, and our village has multiplied too with his business and just everything. It's amazing to me. I feel so grateful.
I'm glad that's giving you some comfort.
It does.
Now, what can people do to help?
So I have a spot fund. It's like a GoFundMe. It's all legit and everything, but between that, I mean, any donation helps at this time. He's got a wife and kids at home. He's got bills that aren't being paid because he obviously can't pay them. His wife is working now, but we all know with one income in this economy is not going to work well. So that and prayers, just say a prayer. I mean, if you can't donate, just say a prayer. That's all I really ask.
So how are his spirits? Is he able to talk? Does he talk to you? I mean, so what's on his mind right now, other than wanting to get better?
So today he actually got transferred from Cooperstown to Hamilton.
Is that a good sign?
It is. That means they took all the staples out of his back. They actually did has skin grafts on his back.
Yeah.
They took all the staples out the other day. Today they took his feeding tube out.
Good.
And everything. So he's just Brett now.
Yeah.
Brett now waiting to heal.
He's probably
he
in
is
better
healing.
spirits because of that, I would imagine. So, yeah.
A little bit. I mean, he's still in a lot of pain, like a lot of pain, but
what does it feel like? I mean, he has cells like dying in his body. It must be a very I imagine it must be incredibly painful.
So when his infection first started in his back, he thought he had bulging discs in his back, if you've ever had a bulging disc.
Yeah.
So his back swelled up, and he sent me a picture, and he's like, Mom,
wow.
Does your back swell up when you have bulging discs? And I was
Not
like,
usually. You
no,
can't see it, you know.
No,
right,
it doesn't.
Right.
You might want to go to the hospital.
Like that, but, you know, yeah.
But then he didn't want to go, and then I was working all day and couldn't bring him, and then the next day is when they called the ambulance because the swelling was spreading like to his hips and to his stomach, and so he was full of infection.
So, like, before this, a perfectly healthy man, you know, who
Perfectly
has a
healthy.
landscaper,
3 years ago, perfectly healthy.
Former football player, you
Yes.
know. It could happen to any one of us.
Yes. And it's so mind-bending, for lack of a better word.
Right,
like,
right.
Why, you know?
Right,
You
right.
look at this person, I mean, he's a football coach. He coaches Pop Warner and coaches NFL flag.
Very active.
And he loves the kids. I mean, he'd give his shirt off his back to help anybody.
Yeah.
And to teach the kids, that's where his heart is. He loves coaching.
So what does Brett Strong mean?
Brett Strong means Brett is strong enough to make it through.
Yeah.
And our village is strong for him.
Yeah.
As well.
And you're strong too.
I am.
You are strong. You're here today.
I question that sometimes, but I definitely am.
The strongest
strong.
people often wonder if they're not strong enough. That's actually goes. But you're mom. You're a fighter. I can tell that, and I'm sure he is too. So
absolutely.
So Becky Nemo, thank you for being here and sharing your story with us. Coming up next, I'll be joined by Colleen Campbell for a deeply human conversation about grief, loss, and survival, and the way that sharing our stories can help others feel less alone. I'm Ron Klopfanstein. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. I'll have more after the break. Welcome back to the hot seat on this Media Monday. On this show a lot, we talk about resilience, grief, survival, and community, and how these stories that people share when life becomes painful or difficult or uncertain can bring people together. Joining me now is Colleen Campbell. After the loss of her husband, Colleen used Facebook to express and process her grief. And in doing so, she gave people an honest window into love, loss, memory, and survival. Her posts have helped others understand grief more deeply and maybe help some people feel less alone in their own pain. Colleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron.
What happened to your husband?
So a quick synopsis. In May of 2022, the entire family got COVID. And that June, Alistair was the chief reader for the computer science AP exam. And so he was off grading those exams and sent me a text and said he just felt like a little dizzy, a little wobbly, thinking it was just leftover effects from COVID. Fast forward to July. We spent most of the month of July at Rochester trying to figure out what was going on. He started to lose feeling in his left arm, was having difficulty walking. In August, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is stage 4 brain cancer. And 2 months later, he passed away. It was, felt very quick, very sudden.
Yeah. How long were you married?
We were married in 2001, so we were married 21 years.
Wow, and you have 2 kids.
Yep. Aubrey is 21 now, senior at Hamilton, and Evelyn is 18, a senior at Proctor. Mm-hmm. So they were 14 and 18 respectively when Alistair passed away.
Wow. So what do you do when they happen? You know, this is a strange question, but like, what do you do when that happens?
I was in an absolute fog at first. And luckily, actually, Alistair's best friend from college, from Colgate, helped so much. He helped just to organize Alistair's, he's a lawyer. He helped to organize Alistair's funeral for me, just all the logistics. Right. Because when that happens, it feels so unreal, and your head is just spinning. And so the logistical portion of it, Brad helped out a lot.
Yeah.
The kids and I all spoke at Alistair's funeral. It's something we all wanted to do.
Yeah.
What
did you say?
So much.
Do you remember what you said?
I talked about how I met Alistair in Buffalo. We met singing in a church cathedral.
Nice.
And so I talked about how I met him,
Yeah.
how we got together, music that connected us, and I thanked him. I thanked him for, it's going to make me sad.
Yeah, no, I understand. Right.
For our children, for our life together.
Right.
So I thanked him.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, how do you break news like that when he gets a diagnosis to kids, to your children?
Horrible. The week before Alistair passed, he passed on October 22nd. The Sunday before, I was at the hospital, and the doctor had said to me, "Has no one really talked to you about where he is?" And no one really had. I mean, in my mind and in Alistair's mind, he was still going to get better. He was going to beat this. Just take a little time off of work and get back to it. Dreamland.
When it happened so suddenly like that, I'm sure you do feel like you could turn it around.
And she told me he has days at that point.
Wow.
And so every day I took time off from teaching. I was going to Rochester. Kids were in school. The Thursday before, the doctor told me it's imminent.
Yeah.
Imminent. And so wonderful. I live in a great neighborhood in South Utica.
Yeah.
My wonderful neighbors, the Parkers. I was in Rochester. I contacted them. Jeff went and got Evelyn from Proctor High School.
Yeah.
And Danelle was on campus at Hamilton, got Aubrey. Jeff drove the kids to Rochester, no questions asked, to drop them off with me. I mean, I know your previous guest was talking about Village.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
the support
Village.
network is so important. So now years have gone by.
3.5.
A few years, which probably doesn't feel like much to you, but
it does and it doesn't.
Yeah. And I see your Facebook posts, and like, I'm always stricken by how painful the most routine thing can be, like sitting in the parking lot at Aldi's and thinking the times you used to shop together. When you share your grief like this, what kind of feedback do you get from people? I know I've said before how moving it is to me.
Feedback like that, I have gotten personal messages from other people who are unfortunately in this same club.
Yeah.
That it has been helpful, that they don't feel quite as alone, that they can kind of share and understand some of what I'm going through, some of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that helps me. It's therapeutic for me to feel less alone.
Yeah.
We don't have family in the area, so when Alistair passed away, it's me and the kids.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put additional grief on Aubrey and Evelyn, especially Evelyn, who was still living at home. And so I kind of went to Facebook.
Although they probably were it has so much grief, more or less, would probably be almost indistinguishable at this point, I would imagine.
Would be, but their grief is different. I mean, they lost their dad, I lost a spouse. So
right.
It's different for everyone.
Yeah. So when you do you feel the loss all the time, or is it something that sometimes you forget about, and then like in certain moments, like it comes back to you?
I don't forget about it, but it
maybe not in the forefront of your mind.
Right, or I'm better able to deal with the pain of it now, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I think part of why I started writing on Facebook was to feel less alone at first. I had looked for grief counseling, which I did two sessions, and the counselor's like, "Oh, read this book and this book," and I said, "I already have. I read those books."
Right.
And then Grief Share was older widows and widowers, and so I had a hard time finding a community of folks in their 40s with kids at home who were dealing with this.
I think a beneficial thing about what you do when you share stuff like this is that death is something that a lot of people like to push out of their minds, and it's something that I think is really important to face our own mortality and that of our loved ones on a continual basis, because it really is there. You know, and by putting it out there like that, it kind of forces us to confront that, but also to appreciate what we have while we have it.
And I hope people do appreciate the mundane little things.
Yeah.
I did not realize that is what I would miss the most.
Right. What are some of the things, how do you prepare like for holidays? Is every holiday particularly hard, or is it kind of like blurred together?
No, holidays are very hard. That first Christmas, the day after Christmas, the kids and I went to the city and saw 3 different Broadway shows just to do something completely different.
Yeah.
That very first Thanksgiving, I went to my brother and sister-in-law's, and they were reaching out, which was wonderful. I felt miserable. I felt so very alone, and I really didn't want to be around couples, and I didn't want my kids to be around aunts and uncles because their cousins got to still see their dad. And dealing with a lot of that, but not saying it out loud. Right.
A lot of those things must be particularly painful to see other people who haven't lost their spouse.
Exceptionally painful. I mean, Aubrey graduates actually on Alistair's birthday next month.
Oh, wow.
From Hamilton, and he was a computer science professor at Hamilton.
Oh, he was professor.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
So we have a strong connection there. And then Evelyn graduates a month later from Proctor, and gearing up for graduation parties, and just it is hard. It's hard. That's when I feel very alone.
What kind of conversations do you have with your children at this point? How do they prepare for like their graduation and for their milestones when their dad won't be present?
It's different for both of them. Aubrey has always been a bit more reserved about that. He's been auditioning for graduate schools. He's looking ahead. And Evelyn is as well, but she of course has been home, and so I think for her, she has felt his absence more, the physical absence, because her dad used to give her a ride to school. Her dad's not home barbecuing on the grill. Those kinds of things. So she sees the absence, I think, more profoundly, just because of where they're at. I listen. When they want to talk, I listen. And whatever they want to tell me is okay.
How do you manage? Well, how does a widow spouse manage it when you're someplace like doing a routine thing and you're hit by a wave of grief? Like say in an Aldi's parking lot. What do you do?
Initially, I'll say the first year or so, I would be embarrassed, mortified. When I first came back to school, teacher gave me a hug and asked me how I was doing, and of course I just burst into tears. I don't care if anybody sees me burst into tears anymore. It's human. It's okay. I'm sad for a little bit, and then I'm okay. So I let my emotions be my emotions now.
There's a great value, I think, in expressing rather than suppressing your emotions.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what I'm seeing on Facebook. We see a lot of that on Facebook too. Like you write letters to Alistair.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
What was he like?
He was unique. He was different. When I met him, he rode his bicycle all over Buffalo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he didn't have a car. He'd gotten rid of his car, and
it's always bad weather out there in Buffalo.
Constantly. There's an article about him.
It'd be too cold for me.
Yeah, there's an article about him riding his bike through a snowstorm.
Wow.
In the Buffalo newspaper. Picture of him all geared out, decked out. He was a scientist, computer scientist. He was unbelievably intelligent. Kind of scary smart is how I like to say it. He played trombone, but he was goofy too. I mean, my family, we would always sing together and make up songs about packing the car to go on vacation. And he just...
Great sense of humor.
Yeah. Great sense of humor. He liked to smoke a good pipe every now and then. He was the love of my life.
What did he say to you when he first found out? Because I can't imagine like what I would say to my husband or to anybody, or even how I would process it myself if I were to get a devastating diagnosis like that.
Our initial thought was gloves off, we're going to fight this. And then he didn't say too much to me, but he did say to his friend Brad, who had come up from Florida to visit him before he passed away, that he was worried about me and the kids, and he just wanted to make sure that we were going to be okay. Yeah.
In your Facebook post, you often write them as a letter kind of to him. Do you feel like he sees that and he can read that, or he knows?
I hope so. I do. I mean, yes, I could go to his gravesite, but that doesn't feel like as authentic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, they're kind of like love letters. They're
right. I was going to say your posts do seem like that. They're so deep and authentic.
Thank you.
And there's such honesty and purity about that I think. What do you think he would think of? What do you want him to know about how you guys are doing?
That we're working on being okay.
Yeah.
That I don't like the phrase moving on, because that sounds like we're somehow leaving him in the past, but he has helped to shape who I am now. Obviously, he's helped shape who the kids are.
Yeah.
I think he would be proud that we are going forward.
Yeah.
A couple of weekends ago, I sang with the Clinton Community Choir, which was the first time I had sung with a choir since he passed away.
Oh, wow. So that was a big step for you.
It was.
How did that feel?
It felt great, honestly.
Yeah.
It really did. And if he were alive, he would have been doing it with me.
Yeah. Now, if someone were to come to you and say that they just got a diagnosis with their husband, what advice would you have for them?
The practical advice, there's so much paperwork. There's so much paperwork that happens.
And probably at a time you're at least able to deal with
absolutely
red tape and complications and bureaucracy.
Honestly, for the first year after he died, I was not thinking straight. It was impossible.
Right.
So it's helpful to have people you trust to help you, and then to just tell their story and stop worrying about making other people feel bad by telling your story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right.
And that it sucks that they're part of this club. I wouldn't say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Some people say that, and I get it. They don't know what else to say, and I know they're being genuine and trying to be helpful, but they didn't do this.
Yeah. Right.
So,
what do you think you've learned from this experience about yourself, or how have you changed or grown?
I don't worry about little things as much. The bigger things I do. Bigger things I worry about. Are we going to Indiana, making sure he gets his apartment, Evelyn getting settled into college. Those things I worry about. I ignore little things that just don't matter.
Yeah.
And I try not to take things for granted.
Yeah.
Like we used to do our porch nips all the time, and Evelyn and I will still do that occasionally. I miss those terribly.
Yeah. What did you do?
Porch nips.
What are those?
So Alistair and I, we would, on a nice day, like a day like today, after work, we would get home. Alistair would make this kind of weather, probably a gin and tonic.
Yeah.
And we'd grab some snacks.
Oh, a nip.
A nip.
Yeah.
And we would go sit on our front steps, really not much of a porch, and just talk about the day.
Right.
Talk about whatever. Often neighbors would come over and just hang out.
Yeah.
It was just nice. It was a nice community time.
Yeah. Those times are so important. But probably now you have such a great. It's good that you had the perspective then to enjoy those times. And I think it's good to remind everybody else too, really to enjoy those day-to-day things, because that really is what life is all about.
Yeah. And I think I've become even more independent. I've realized.
Sure, you had to.
Yeah, I can do a lot more than I thought I could. No, than I want, definitely, but than I thought I could.
Well, Colleen, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing it on an ongoing basis like that. I really feel like what you do is greatly beneficial to everyone who reads it, and I'm glad it is to you as well, too.
Thank you. I needed something good to come from this, and so if helping others is something that can happen, I'm thrilled. And
sharing stories really does help others. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We've been talking to Colleen Campbell about grief, survival, and the power of expressing difficult emotions honestly and openly. I'm Ron Klopfanstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. We'll have more after the break. Hey everyone, welcome back to the hot seat on this Media Monday. I'm Ron Klopfanstein. Joining me now are Moe and Sarah Lalonde. They're former science teachers and the author of a new children's book. They have quite a few children's books here. We're going to talk about their books, their work as educators, and the art and science of creating lessons and stories that reach young people. Moe and Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So tell me about the Meet the Germs and the Germ Files. What are these books about? And what's interesting about germs?
Well, it's something that doesn't get talked about.
Exactly.
It really doesn't. And there's so much good and bad to
Yeah.
it. And that's good for the kids to understand. And some feedback we get from adults who've read it to their kids.
Oh, right. We can all learn more.
They say they learn things. And one mentioned the first thing they did after reading it was go wash their hands.
Wash their hands.
right.
So how do you take a concept like germs or animal adaptation or plant adaptation, science stuff?
Mm-hmm.
How do you take a difficult, complex idea like that and translate it down into a book that's for kids, that's entertaining, that's colorful, that's interesting? How do you make science fun or
Well,
fun to read about?
I taught second grade for a long time, and so I had a lot of kids.
Your audience.
Yes,
Yeah.
I knew the audience, and a lot of them love nonfiction books, and mostly what we read in school tends to be fiction, or did tend to be fiction.
Yeah, I think for the lower grades, yeah. Right.
So, you see those that really like the nonfiction, especially
That's how I
boys.
was. Yep,
Yeah,
that's how I
especially
am.
boys.
Yep.
And then at the end of my teaching career, I became a science and STEM teacher to start the program there when STEM was just a new
Right.
thing.
Now, for our listeners, what is STEM?
Science, technology, engineering, and math. It's kind of a combination of all kind of to solve a problem.
Right, and it's sort of become kind of a focus, especially in the elementary years, I would say now. Is that, it sort of changed how education was delivered by focusing more on that stuff, right? STEM?
It did. I'm not sure if it is as much now at the elementary level as it was. I think when COVID hit, it
Yeah,
kind of
that
put the
changed.
damper on that because of STEM being so hands-on, and you weren't
right.
allowed to share manipulatives and all that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And now kids are really still catching up on the
Yeah.
math and the reading, which is unfortunate for science.
I think COVID took a big impact. I teach college, and I think it's more difficult to get a class discussion going about stuff because that was the age that was really impacted probably when they were in middle school, my college freshman, and it has changed things quite a bit. Now, you guys are both teachers. Something that always interests me, and I think other people might be interested too, not in the field, is how do you write a good lesson plan? What is a lesson plan? What goes into a lesson plan? Because you have a lot of material on teachers pay teachers stuff.
Right.
What makes that effective? Your work.
I think you really have to look at the standards because everybody's supposed to look at the standards
Right.
and they're supposed to
Yep.
write down what their standards are.
Yep.
So when I started doing lesson plans for Teachers Pay Teachers, that's what I did. I really went
Yep.
through it was the next generation
The next
science
generation now.
standards were
Yep.
very new then.
Yeah,
And STEM
yeah.
was very new. And I
Yeah.
could take that with my background in English and language arts and
Mm-hmm.
kind of merge them. That's kind of how the books started.
Right.
And some of the topics that we taught in science.
Yeah.
A big part of the lessons is to make them as relevant as you can to the kid's life.
Right.
As much as you can make it about things that they can see or experience every day.
Yeah.
That's big.
How did you know when you were teaching a class? So when did you know that it was working? The kids are getting this and they're coming alive and their brains are turning on and stuff.
I'd say when you're not teaching as much as you are facilitating.
That's a good point. Right. I think the best class, especially this time of year when you get near the end, is when as a teacher you can really kind of step back and they kind of do their own thing with each other individually, and you know that they're connecting, they're getting it. Yeah. So it's a good feeling.
They give you feedback, certainly at the younger
kids
levels.
always give you feedback.
That's good, and that's good. Boy, I could take a good honest hit if I earned it. But,
It makes meetings.
There's never a lecture at that level. It's got to be interactive because and they deserve that. They're going to fall asleep understandably.
Well, at every age, you really got to get into it quick. Like even with the college kids, I try to keep the talking part down to a minimum and get them to work. It's like, so what drew you to teaching? Like, why did you guys both become teachers?
Yeah, actually, the program I went through, which was industrial arts back then and technology.
Oh yeah,
and I wasn't even planning on teaching, but because most of certainly half the graduates in that program did not go into teaching, and then within 5 years, a bunch of the other ones had left teaching also.
A lot of people don't stay.
As part of the program, student teaching was required. And that's where getting in and mixing it up with the kids, and I said this is great. And
it's really great. It is.
And what a privilege,
Yeah,
it really is.
I mean, it's great. Like if it's the thing for you, For some people, it doesn't work. But if you're born to be a teacher, once you start, it's like, oh wow, this job is awesome. You know.
Yeah.
Now, do you miss it now that you've retired?
Miss the kids. And some of the colleagues and things, but I felt like I'm still able to teach.
You definitely are, right, with your books,
and help students, and I guess that's what it's really about.
That's really the important thing. Yeah.
And we stay involved in that way. And we certainly miss the kids. The kids were awesome, and we still stay in touch, and that's the beauty of on Facebook or whatever.
True.
Because we do stay in touch. They reach out and want a friend, and that's quite a compliment.
It's a really difficult. It's such a difficult job, but it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
It really is. And so when you're choosing a topic for these books, how do you know it's a good topic? Like it'll make a good book, or people be interested in it, or people want to learn about this stuff. How do you choose? How do you choose germs?
Funny story there.
That's a funny story.
Oh, tell me.
You want to tell me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, so we were contacted by a book company.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because of our presence with TPT and that Sarah has done with that, and we did a couple of interviews.
Mm-hmm.
We made a proposal. We gave them samples of writing what that might look like.
Yeah.
And we got the contract to write a book for them. Because this was the beginning of COVID, and their research showed that there was a real need out there for germ books for kids. That's where it came from.
Right, because we all had to learn about germs so fast. Yeah.
So we went through a process working with their editors. It was a real eye opener how extensive a job that really is.
A lot of back and forth.
And trying to make germs accurate, make it accurate, because there's an awful lot of crossover. And
that's true. Yeah.
It's a good challenge. And we finished up with the book with them, and before they published it, they said, our research shows there's been a drop in need for this.
Oh no!
So we got paid.
Yeah.
But we had to wait a couple of years to write the book on our own.
Uh-huh.
So that's why we waited and came up with a little different version of the same topic, and that's where that topic came from. Yeah.
What did you guys learn by doing these books? I mean, I'm sure you knew about enough to teach a second grade student about germs, but by doing the research and at COVID, things kind of we became, I think, more knowledgeable about this kind of stuff. What did you guys learn from doing these books? What is there still for you to learn as scientists yourselves? You must be learning some new things.
Sure.
Right.
I guess in this case, like I mentioned, this was a real challenge to try and differentiate all the different germs and make it accurate.
True.
Make it so they can understand it.
Yeah.
Make it so it's accurate, because when you simplify it to a point
you
where it's good for them,
So
and that was interesting and challenging.
Now, what's the process of you guys writing books together? Because I would think that'd be a hard thing to do. Because I write, but I can't imagine writing with somebody. But you guys work together on these things.
Well, the first couple of books I wrote, and he was kind of the proofreader and did a lot of that stuff for me. And the germ book, you were more the writer on that, and I was more
an organizer.
And we needed to look for photographs.
Like an editor,
and then doing everything on the computer and getting it in the right format.
Yeah. Do you ever quarrel about what goes? Because my husband helps me with he's my photojournalist, the AI content. He's the editor too. And at times, like I think this should be in there. He thinks it shouldn't be in there and stuff. And we have to work that out week after week. You know. How about you guys? What's your process?
Oh, I think we work great as a team.
Yeah.
At the end, I know I was pushing it a little bit.
Like, okay, we've gone through
You
this.
stand back a little bit, and then you reread something, and you say, "Oh no, that's not quite there." And we had about 10 iterations of that, till we felt we really had it where we really wanted it. So.
Yeah.
What else do you guys do? You're artists. You're so many things. You send me all these websites. It's amazing. You know, you guys do so much.
Yeah, so along with the Teachers Pay Teachers, at that time we also we do still have a blog, Science and STEAM Team, to give teachers ideas about things. So we need to write a new blog about germs to promote our germ book. And we have an art business. During COVID, I've always liked art and have always done, I would say, different kind of crafts.
That interests me. Like a science, people who are, the science types also do art. You know, that's interesting. That like you like both like sides of things. Because I also think of art as more like my side, like the English teacher side. You know, in science, I was thinking of it as like so practical, like non-artistic. But you guys are artists too.
Yeah, and I think though, like with the books on plants and any of these things, it's that sense of wonder. Yeah. And so I think art kind of goes along with that. At least it does for me. I paint.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and I've taken probably over 100 courses online with art. Kind of, I started getting back into it right before COVID, and then when you couldn't go out,
you had all the time to like develop.
Yeah, and then his is a little different.
No, you do wood.
I do wood art.
Yeah,
and that's a kind of a small niche, I guess.
But it's popular.
Early on, I did furniture. In fact, I had a business that was making furniture, and it was a lot of custom cabinetry and that kind of stuff.
You guys are busy.
I made a bank for our 5th wedding anniversary, and it was artistic. And that went on our counter, and we called it our anniversary bank. We put coins in it, and that's what we went out on our anniversary with.
Because our anniversary was in the summer, and we were teachers. We didn't have money by August.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. So, I ever know how that is?
Yeah.
I'm staring down the point, like when the check stopped. You know, at the end of June. You know, it's like yeah.
And when our daughter was a freshman in college and wanted a job, but not a real job, we went in my shop and said, "What can we do?" So we made anniversary banks.
Oh, and, good idea.
Actually, you know, she's been out of it for a little bit, but we're over 400 banks now.
Wow.
400 banks later, and it's an artistic.
So that took off for you guys too.
And
so, what gives you a sense of wonder still? You know, you were teacher for like 32 years, I think.
33, yeah.
33 years, and now you've retired. Now you're doing the art, you do the books. What makes you? What are you interested in? Like, what are you researching now for yourself? What are you passionate about?
Well, right now I'm really into for art seed pods, and then that leads to the whole thing why seeds are important to the world, and searching for them in nature. I love to go out and look at things in nature and.
Springtime is a good time for that.
Yeah.
What's something that you just like learned about seeds, or that you've like just experienced, or maybe just outside, like right here around here, April 2026.
April 2026. We don't have a lot of seed pods around unless they've fallen in the
That's
fall,
true, because
and you can still
they gotta
find
be growing
them.
now. Yeah.
But I have researched what kind of trees they have up at Lake Root Glen and in our area in Oneida County, so I kind of know where I can go look for those when the time is right.
What seeds interest you? Like, what is it about seeds? What do seeds symbolize to you? What interests you about them?
Kind of growth, new life.
Yeah. Possibilities.
Yeah.
How about you, Mo? What are you passionate about right now?
Well, we have a granddaughter that lives right in town.
Oh,
that's big.
And a new grandson. So.
Wow, so
right?
Yeah. Too, yeah.
So that's he's not doing art and stuff yet, but he's 3 months, so he'll be there soon.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of this stuff with the family like that, and that's awesome. That's something new.
So what about like technology interests you, or art, or you're doing now, or?
Well, retirement's great in that it gives you flex time to come up with new things. So I can. I spend a lot of time. I'll focus on one topic: nuclear energy.
Yep.
Just really focus on that for a long time.
That always interests me.
Now
too,
it's human behavior, because that's something I should know about for myself.
Wow, good for you.
So, and that kind of stuff, and it'll be another topic soon. And so, what a privilege to have this kind of flex time to do that.
And
really
it's great that you're doing that. Like, what should people that are retired do? Like, you're both retired, but you're active, you're learning new stuff, you're pushing your boundaries. Why is that important?
You need to keep on learning and have that sense of wonder, because there are a lot of people out there that really do not enjoy retirement.
Right. Or they're like this smaller and smaller and smaller. But it sounds like for you guys, you're like this bigger.
It's almost like, there's more, and I know you can relate to this, there's more to do than you can do in 3 lifetimes.
Exactly.
So it's like, man, we got to cram this in now, because the window is shrinking, and
you don't want to waste your
do
life,
all you can.
Right.
Yeah. What's your advice to people that want to learn more about science?
That's a great question.
Buy your
It's so
books.
everywhere.
Buy
It
our
seems so
books,
self-evident.
yes.
Why would you not love it?
Yeah, I mean, just research anything that you wonder about.
Yeah. The world is full of interesting stuff to learn more about.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can find your work on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can find your work on Amazon.
Yeah.
Where else can you find your stuff?
Well, I would say that's pretty much it.
Yeah, your blogs
on our
and stuff.
website,
Websites.
he's going to have a show at View in Old Forge. We just
nice.
took our artwork up there, so he'll have 11 pieces up there.
Cool.
That'll start in, I think the opening is May 22nd, but it'll be up there for a couple months.
We have our art websites, moelalonde.com and lalondestudios.com.
I was checking those out, yeah. So when I post this, please post the links, in the comments, so people can see all this great stuff. And they can go by the Germ Files and Meet the Germs and all these other great books that you guys have. We've been talking to Moe and Sarah Lalonde about the new children's book and about teaching, science, writing, and the creativity it takes to reach young minds. Moe and Sarah, thank you for joining us here tonight. We'll have this full episode of Hot Seat Media Monday streaming Wednesday at 9 p.m. at uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Thank you to all our listeners who tuned in tonight, who streamed us on 95.5 FM The Heat. Our sound engineer is Jonathan Brooks. He's DJ Jay Easy. He's up next with Easy Ride Home. Photojournalist and AI content producer Jim Hale records the show for YouTube and podcasts. I'm your host, Ron Klopfanstein. I'll be back next week with another Hot Seat Media Monday.
What's up? Let's go!
Good.